Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today for this brief overview of mindful eating, how to practice a more thoughtful approach to food. The first question to start with is, what is the primary goal of mindful eating? And really, that is to restore our natural hunger and satiety cues. I put a picture of a baby here because I want you to think about if you've ever tried to feed a toddler when they're not hungry, or try to continue, feeding a toddler. Once they've had enough to eat, good luck. You're going to have a hard time because when that toddler is done eating, they want to go back to playing or whatever it is that they were doing. When they are really actually hungry, they will let you know. But most really young children don't eat if they're not hungry. We're born with these innate natural hunger and satiety cues, but we lose them somewhere along the way. So what is mindfulness really? Well, it's paying attention to our experience in the moment, being intentional about it without judgment, with minimal distractions, really tuning into what our thoughts, our emotions, and our bodies are feeling. You can all think of a time where maybe you were watching TV or talking to someone or working and you were eating something, and after a while, you were just doing it automatically. You might not even have noticed the taste of it anymore, but more that habit of taking it from the bowl or the bag to your mouth. And before you know it, the whole bag is gone and you don't even remember where it went. So what are the benefits of mindful eating? Well, there's a really great list here, but a couple that I just want to really highlight and point out are food-related issues like overeating. It takes a full 20 minutes for our stomach to relay the message to our brain that we're full, that it's time to stop eating. If we're eating really fast or we're not paying any attention to our food or what we're doing, it's really easy to go from 0 to stuffed without even realizing what happened. The other thing is, again, really restoring those innate hunger and satiety cues and being aware of them, but improved digestion. The more we chew our food and take time with it, the easier it is for our stomach to break it down, which can significantly reduce things like digestive upset, indigestion, and other gastrointestinal related issues. So what's good to aim for? Well, ideally, we want to steer a little bit more away from highly processed food and a little bit more towards foods that are found in their natural state. Processed foods tend to be very addictive. Those food manufacturers don't want you to eat just one. They spend a lot of time making the color, the smell, the mouthfeel, and the texture so that you want to continue eating even past the point where you're full. Most processed food is also designed for minimal chewing. It doesn't have to spend as much time in your mouth, and it's already really broken down and much more simplified than food in its whole form, partly because all the fiber has been stripped out of it. That means a couple of things. They can pack a lot more calories into a smaller package, meaning you can fit a lot more calories into your stomach without realizing how much you've consumed. But also, your body is going to absorb every last calorie that you put in from a highly processed food. By eating foods in their whole format, even things like minimally processed rice, whole grains, and things like that that have the natural germ layer intact, will automatically reduce the amount of calories that we absorb from that food simply because so much of it is bound up in the fiber. And of course, that fiber will help to fill us up and help us to become aware much more quickly that we're actually full. And did you know most people don't eat for a certain number of calories? Most people eat for a feeling of fullness. So if you're eating highly processed foods, it's going to be easier to consume much more than you need. If you're consuming minimally processed foods with a lot of fiber, you're going to get full more quickly on a lot fewer calories. So how do you know you're hungry? That's a good question. Versus just having an appetite. The two are different. Having an appetite could mean that you just smelled something that you love and that makes you want it, even if you're not physically hungry. It may be that you see other people eating either in a restaurant, some kind of social setting, or on TV, and seeing other people makes you want the same thing. It's really important to tune back into what true hunger feels like for you, how you respond to it, and what you do or what you have available when hunger arises. Being prepared is a critical component. If you allow yourself to get really hungry and you don't know what you're going to eat, if you find yourself at that point where you're actually starting to get lightheaded, shaky, and truly hungry, you're more likely to make food decisions that are not what you would probably prefer. And creating an environment for success. I mean, generally speaking, if you know that you love Ben and Jerry's, and when you start eating it, you're probably not going to be able to stop, maybe having it in your house is not the best idea. It doesn't mean, you never have it, but actually having it in your freezer, having foods that are really challenging for you in your house is always going to be an uphill battle, because at the end of the day, your willpower is not likely to be able to rule out on the day when you're really hungry and you know that that's sitting there waiting for you. If you live in an environment with roommates, significant others, kids, whatever it is, that are bringing food into the house that's challenging for you, maybe you work with those folks to see if there's any way that they can just keep those foods out of plain sight for you if it's hard for you, because chances are if you don't see it, you won't crave it. So really important to recognize your unique signs of hunger. It's a little different for everyone. Some people can go a little bit longer without food. Some people have a much greater ability to sustain blood sugar, but begin recognizing what your personal true hunger signs are before they get too far. And of course, we all have hunger hurdles. There's a lot of things that can get in the way of recognizing true hunger. So many people have so many things going on that sometimes throughout their day, they either don't have time to eat, forget to eat, and then by the end of the day, they're ready to eat everything that doesn't bite back. A couple things I want to highlight really quickly on this slide, though, are the importance of sleep. Our primary hunger hormones, in other words, our satiety hormone, which is called leptin, which is the hormone that tells us when our bodies are full and time to stop eating. And then our hunger hormone called ghrelin, which initiates hunger, are strongly regulated during deep sleep. Inadequate sleep can really affect these hunger hormones, the levels of them in our body, increasing the hunger hormone, decreasing the satiety hormone. But sleep deprivation also can affect the decision-making centers of your brain, so that realistically, if you're making a poor food choice, you don't care. Something else I really want to talk about, and that is dieting or restrictive eating. The minute you tell yourself you're not going to have something, or you're only going to eat certain things, your body immediately wants those things that you just said you weren't going to have. At the end of the day, I usually don't advise people to put things on a good or a bad list. That's just a way to start craving those things. I say allow yourself to have the things that you want, of course, creating a safe environment. I don't advise having those things around your house if it can be avoided. However, if you're going to a family gathering or you have a special occasion and you want to enjoy certain foods, by all means do it. One of my greatest recommendations, one of the greatest recommendations with mindful eating, not really coming from me, is to eat slowly. If you want to overeat, I wouldn't necessarily even discourage that. Allow yourself the mindset and the freedom to do that. But if you significantly slow down and take your time with whatever it is you're eating, whether it's processed or not, chances are really good that you'll end up consuming a lot less. There are probably thousands of case studies testing this exact thing. And if anyone would like some of those case study references, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to share some with you. Usually these studies are done in a university setting, most of the time with college students, but not always. And a lot of times they're even using foods that we wouldn't necessarily think of as healthy, like French fries. But what they'll do is they'll set timers. You'll have one group gets told they can eat as much as they want. And every time they hear this buzzer, they need to take a bite. And the first one will be set at maybe 10 to 15 seconds. The second one is usually set, second group, usually set somewhere around 30 seconds. And there'll be a final group that has to wait a full minute between taking bites. Regardless of what the food is, they're usually told they can have as much as they want until they're full. Hands down across the board, the ones that have to take a full minute between bites and chew thoroughly end up eating almost half as many calories in the 10 to 15 second range. Very powerful. Some steps to tune into your hunger cues. This is just a great guide and reference chart. We really want to start thinking about eating our next meal when we're at about a 4, that slightly uncomfortable beginning signs of hunger. We're going to get in trouble if we get into the 3, the 2, or especially the 1, especially if we haven't had time to prepare. We also, in slowing down, will hopefully avoid getting to an 8, 9, or 10 on the hunger scale. Really taking time to eat so that you're paying more attention, making sure you're tasting each bite, noticing the texture, the taste, the color of the food is really important. Take a big breath and pause throughout your meals to check in about how you're feeling. So if we allow ourselves to get to that 3, 2, or 1 on that hunger scale, what happens? Most of the time people start eating chaotically. It makes eating stressful. You know, it's not even enjoyable anymore because your blood sugar is so low most times. You feel like you might even pass out if you don't get something in, and you end up eating way more than you need, and your body can hardly even process it. It really limits the ability of our bodies to listen to and understand the internal cues that tell us that we're full or satisfied, and significantly decreases our enjoyment and satisfaction, because when you're eating that fast, you're probably not even tasting the food anymore. And I've never encountered anyone that has eaten in this kind of pattern that doesn't feel a little bit like they blew it again, or they just lost control or something like that. A little bit of pre-planning can go a long way. And I recognize meal planning might be hard for many individuals, especially busy parents and things like that. However, if you can put together a good list of some healthy options, even to order out when you have to, know what options make the most sense. Even if you have to go through the drive-thrus, there's always a more whole food option. If you have those things planned out, you're much more likely to make smarter choices when the time comes, if you haven't had a chance to make something ahead. So when you have some time, this is a great practice to go through to really bring more awareness to your eating and to being present in the moment. So you take a piece of food, whatever it is. I really like doing this with fruit, with a raisin, with something that's got some good texture. And look at it. Again, think about a little kid eating. You know, when they're eating food, they pick it up, they smell it, they look at it, they probably smear it on their face, but they're really paying attention to what they're doing at the time. Take notice of the color, any interesting details about it. Appreciate what it is that you're looking at. Smell it. Really notice the smells. You always want to place the food item in your mouth without chewing or swallowing it, and allow it to just kind of roll around in your mouth and feel the different sensations at different places in your mouth, under your tongue, on the roof of your mouth, things like that. Wait to chew it. Think about consciously making the decision to chew the food, and when you do, you want to chew it as slowly as possible. Once you swallow the food, really be aware of any lingering tastes in your mouth and notice, you know, if they're pleasant, how much you enjoy them, what you enjoy about it, as well as any reactions like thoughts or feelings to having that food. Remember, there is no right or wrong. What works for one person doesn't work for another person. But that's a practice. You're not going to do that forever, but doing it every once in a while until you really start to become more aware can be really helpful. So again, what are some things you can do on your own? Start thinking of food more like that toddler, really paying attention to nothing but that whenever you have the opportunity. I recognize that, again, that may be very hard for people who are working parents and things like that. But if you have an opportunity, even a couple days a week, to maybe set a timer, just focus on your food, to have no other distractions, no screens, not eating while you're driving, standing up, or anything like that, but actually just really paying attention to your food, not moving back onto whatever activity you were doing, like that toddler, until you're done. Once you're done eating, you can go back to playing or whatever it was. Even doing this every once in a while will help you to begin to tune back in. Always take a deep breath before eating. Dump any stress out of your brain. It's great to keep a food diary and start to become aware of when your body is hungry so you know those cues. Plan ahead as much as you possibly can so that when you're really hungry in the moment, you're less likely to make food decisions that you might regret later. You might even try things like eating with your non-dominant hand, experimenting with things like chopsticks, and as much as possible, putting your utensils down between bites, completely chew before you load up that fork again. That's it for this overview. I hope you are able to walk away with something. And please reach out to me if you have any questions or you'd like more information.